My heart is pounding out of my chest. I also know that I'm going to be killed. Now, it's been going on for a long time. It's more like manslaughter, and I'm not trying to be over dramatic. I don't want attention. This is something that is very obvious to hundreds of people who have told me that this is going to kill me. They've seen me bleeding on the side of the street. They've seen me out at Frisbee Hospital, bleeding in the waiting room, all covered in blood, as my face is swollen out, and they're worried I might die tonight. This happened at Frisbee Hospital. I had a seizure. My head got smashed on a corner of the table. Blood squirted on the wall. I almost died, and it took me 3 months to walk and talk again, and the doctors did not write up any records on this incident except for patient came in, he had difficulty walking and talking, some crazy story, and left. They didn't even see me for an hour. I'm covered in blood. My brain is swollen, and any doctor in this country could have easily seen that I was in life-threatening condition. Now, this has continued for 25 years. I'm age 32 years old. I have a funny voice that bothers me. If I played this video back, it would bother me. I have a man coughing in the background. Now, he needs his own help. Why hasn't he been getting services when he has problems, some senile type problems? Why would nobody help this man? And why would this man be making mistakes like allowing maintenance to watch me naked, or having landlords, convince them to take my money out of drawers without my permission, going years without a lease, having bed bugs in a room for 3 years without even, well, everybody else gets that taken care of within 30 days. Why would this be such a problem? Nobody will listen to me. Every time there's an emergency, anytime there is a serious problem, like a landlord is beating on his tenants, or the maintenance is harassing and spitting on an 84-year-old, or ceiling tiles are falling on our heads from a leaky pipe, or waterfalls are coming in down a heater, even when it's very clearly on video, nobody will fucking listen to me. I am not allowed to defend my family. I'm not allowed to defend my home. If somebody pulls a knife or starts beating on me or somebody else, I'm not allowed to protect myself. You might be going, oh no, there's laws to protect yourself. Not for me. I am not allowed to work a job. Why? Because I don't get any documentation from doctors of my injuries. When I work a job, I have to claim that I'm disabled, but I cannot write what my disabilities are. Once when they see me fall on the ground, the customers, once when they always see my neurological disorder, they always see me shaking. When I come in from 10 minutes in the cold, I look like I'm about to collapse. This has been going on for 25 years. Well, how could it possibly go on for 25 years, bleeding on sides of the road and having seizures out in the woods of New Mexico and having overdoses at the age of 6 and having all the teachers see the sudden change in you? 1 minute, you're talking normal, you're walking normal, your nervous system is normal, your movements are normal. Your mother just spent a year making up psych stories to try to get a bunch of drugs. She's slipping you those drugs. She's slipping you some Percocet, some of her own medicine. And you have an overdose and your body gets destroyed. And your mother decides to let you sleep off as your breathing slows down. You lost your vision. You can't see out of your eyeballs. And this happens to you. How can my mother get away with this? The teachers are seeing it. The doctor asked me about it, and I told him the truth. My mother gave me meds, and I had this horrible reaction. I lost all my senses. I couldn't speak. I couldn't see out of my eyes. I couldn't feel my nervous system, and I passed the hell out. When I woke up, I just didn't seem the same. I'm sucking on my skin. Of course, I don't know why my skin feels different. How could my mother get away with this? Well, first of all, she said that sucking on the skin was suicidal ideations. My mother called the overdose an allergy attack. As the teachers put me in physical therapy and speech therapy, my mother decided to pull me out of that and put me in ballet. As the doctors wanted to help me, my father got an offer. He didn't want to go on the offer. He said, I'm not going to fucking Texas. But my mother demanded that we go to Texas. And then my mother convinces me, a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, oh, a 7 at this time or so, to go along with their answer. And of course, I'm afraid of her. I am absolutely terrified of my mother at the age of 7. You could see this. I was losing weight. I was so skinny that they thought I might die. I was afraid to do anything. I was deathly afraid. I was deathly ill. And my mother decided to drug me for an adoption as well. She gave me some pills before we got in the car. I passed out in the car. I passed out on the wooden bench for whatever part of this adoption. There was different parts. All I was told, remember, I was only 7. So I was told that this was part of the adoption. They brought me in this building. It was a small basement type building. It had some wooden like church benches. They dragged me onto the bench and I fell asleep. Yes, I barely could walk and I passed out on the bench. I was woken up. Everybody is gone. Everybody's out of this place. I'm passed out on the wooden bench. My mother tries to get me to stand up, but the drugs are too much. Remember, I wasn't prescribed these medicines. My mother slipped me some pills. Now, I wasn't able to walk, so my mother tried to carry me. But at age 7, she said I was too heavy, so halfway to the door, she told me to walk, and I stumble walked. We got to the car. I pass out again in the car. We get to a ski loft. This is in Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure most people would recognize this ski loft. And don't get this mixed up to my baptism party. I was just fine during my baptism party. We're talking about way before that at the adoption party. This is at a ski loft. Okay? This is where they do a bunch of sledding and skiing and rafting. I know this because when I came back to Massachusetts at the age of 12, 13, something like that, at the age of 16 while in Massachusetts going to a different program, I ended up going back to this place and all those horrific memories flashed back as soon as I was in that building. I said, oh man, this is where I was passed out tired, wanting to just sleep on the floor as people give me birthday gifts. And yes, I always got excited about getting gifts, except for when my mother was drugging me. Okay, so I'm in Massachusetts, I'm age 6, 7, something like that, and my mother's drugging me during an adoption. But it doesn't stop there. I have a problem where I need to know every meaning to every word. I always tested through the roof on my vocabulary, even though nobody ever taught me vocabulary words. Well, then how is my vocabulary so big compared to other kids that actually got educations? I didn't get a proper education, but yet I blow other people away on my vocabulary. Why? Because the last time I didn't know a word, I had to drink a full bottle of Epicac out of a cup, and my stomach was damaged for life. I got acid reflux up in my throat for weeks on end. My stomach felt like it was on fire. And we're not talking about a regular dose of Epicac. My mother made it clear that she was giving me extra Epicac as a punishment. Yes, she bragged about how much Epicac extra. Now, she tried to downsize it, but she always told people the truth about giving me extra Epicac. But I was there. The cup was empty, and she took the Epicac bottle, put it straight in the cup, and that's it. Now, she ran the water in the background so people wouldn't quite hear everything, but the cup was empty. She took an Epicac bottle and filled it up. It's an 8-ounce. That's an 8-ounce Dixie cup to about the 7-ounce line, and told me I had to finish it. Now, I don't know why my mother would tell everybody how she thought giving extra Epicac as a punishment was such a good idea. Oh, you gave your kid hot sauce? And you gave your kid soap on the tongue and washed his mouth out with soap? Well, I gave my kid extra Epicac. And my mother would brag about this. And why did I get that extra Ipecac? Because I ate a mushroom and I said something my mother didn't like. So she wanted to make sure to give me extra punishment Ipecac. She didn't just do this with Ipecac. She also slipped me pills when she thought I should be quiet. She said they were too old to raise a child. I am 32. My father is 89 years old and never actually raised me. He also stole money from me, used me. Yes, he stole money from me, lots of it. Over $12,000. My father got in trouble with Social Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Department of Social Services of Massachusetts, and he got trouble with my housing program, a rooming house. I was age 19 to 20 years old. I had no idea my father was stealing money from me, but he got caught. He was being brought to court. They guaranteed if I signed on the dotted line, I would get all that money back, and my father would be brought up on charges. But I bailed my father out because they were still holding my health hostage. Still today, my father is holding my health hostage, calling all of this a fantasy. It's all a red herring. He's just having immaturity issues. As I have seizures and I get bloody on the side of the road. Well, why would nobody do anything about this? Like, don't I have a roommate in the background making noises? So if I'm bleeding out on a carpet, if I'm on the side of the road bleeding, if I'm about to die, if I have head injuries and my brain is swollen, if my face looks like Frankenstein from a seizure, if people are beating on me in the frickin' hallway or in front of my door while I tried to hand them rent and a letter on my roommate's behalf, if my roommate wants to tell the landlord about water coming in the windows, and the landlord said this years ago, if you make a complaint to code enforcement, I'm gonna hit you and evict you. David wanted me to hand a piece of paper as well as I wanted to make sure he knew. I told him verbally, though, and I was going to make my complaint with code enforcement, continue to do that. But the landlord decided to throw me through a door while my kidneys were failing, while I'm putting out black urine. Now, I have proof of this on video. Not that anybody wants to see these videos. They all want to pretend like I'm some fantasy spinner. I have videos of waterfalls coming into my apartment, drips and waterfalls and holes and mold and mushrooms coming up through floors. Now, I sent my family the pictures of my face, the seizure paperwork. What do you think they say? Somebody probably just hit ya. Probably a loud now. Some bullshit like that. When there's blood in my bedroom on the wall, you can see that I'm stitched up, and I've been talking about these seizures for years now with them. But again, they want me to die. These people want me to die or pay and give them money. The landlord has now filed to try to get me to give him money for the rest of my life. I am crippled beyond belief. My mother and father made me disabled. They crippled me beyond belief. When my mother passed away because she was mixing drugs with alcohol, do you think my father ever told the doctors that she was drinking while her liver was failing? You think my father ever stopped her from taking my prescriptions? No. When I came home from the emergency room, because my prescriptions were giving me severe migraines that were dropping me to the floor, do you know what my mother did with those prescriptions? She said, I got to hold on to these in my medicine closet. We don't want you doing anything with these. Then my mother started popping my prescription every night. She did it day after day. I could see the bottle going empty. I wanted to make sure my prescriptions were safe from my crazy-ass mother. I knew my mother was popping Xanax years before this. She kept the Xanax on top of her fake jewelry cabinet, and I used to watch TV in there when I was 13. I watched the bottles slowly disappear. I knew my mother must have been taking those then. So now I have Vicodin, what I might need in the future. I'm not really needing it at the moment, but I might be really on the floor again So I want to make sure there's something left for me. My mother has a habit of sucking me dry. So does my father. He will suck every benefit I got dry. I'm not even kidding. I lived in a program from age 14 to age 20. But from age 14 to 20, how many days every month did I spend at my father's house? 8 days if I was lucky, 4 days if I was unlucky, and no days if they wanted to go on another vacation, what would happen every 3 months or so. Now, for those 8 days, how much money do you think my father needed? So all the other kids in Crossroads, in Haverhill, the program that I was in, would go clothing shopping every month. Now they would get their clothing check, and they would get to go out, and I would be punished to my room. And I would ask, why do all the other kids get to go clothing shopping and get McDonald's and not me? Ask your father. Well, why can't I go downstairs and watch TV? We don't have any staff members. All the staff members have to go with the kids. You're the only kid that isn't allowed to get clothing, and we don't have staff members to do one-on-one. The staff members have to go with the other kids. So we called somebody in, and we told them they could play on their phone. They didn't have to work today, and they would still get paid. This is overtime, so we can't have you running around the program. So you got to stay in your room. Well, what am I going to do for supper? We don't have staff to cook you supper. Go get a canned good from the downstairs. So year after year, they expected me to go to my father, and my father to care about me being the raggedy kid making fun of. I was made fun of for year after year after year, month after month after month, for either having short shorts that were too small for me or having large clothing that I had to trade to get up other kids. Yes, I had to trade whatever I could get to get my own clothing at 15, 14 years old. Now, why would I have to do this? Because my father thought, I give him plenty of clothes. I brought him for summer, for school shopping, and I got him some sweatpants and some stuff for Christmas. That's good enough. Meanwhile, my father was investing in a big house in Chelmsford, $980 that was meant for me. Now tell me, do you think I ate $300 worth of food every single month and $100 worth of clothing I got to go shopping with every month? No. My clothing budget every month was zero. I would get to go get some clothing that my mother and father would pick out during Christmas. And during spring, before all the teachers saw me, they would pick me out a little bit and let me go to, what was it, J.C. Maxx? Yeah, one of those cheap. It was Costco and J.C. Maxx or TJ's. And I was only allowed to pick out like $100, $200 a year. I had no idea my father was keeping a check that was meant for me to go clothing shopping with the other kids. Or I would have asked him a lot more. But I did. The program told me to ask my father why I wasn't allowed to wear clothing shopping and why I wasn't allowed to go clothing shopping with the other kids in Crossroads program. And I did. I said, Dad, why can't I go shopping with the other kids? What do you mean they go shopping? I said, they get a clothing check every year. Well, how much? They get a $200 check. That's too much. They can't get $200. I get $980. But these orphans getting $200, that's too much. Meanwhile, the orphans are only getting $200 a month. Nothing else. They're getting $200 every month. It's probably $300 now. But I remember specifically telling my father it was $200. Now, I don't remember the checks, but they used to show it in my face. I don't remember what they look like. I'm now 31, and that was when I was 15. But I remember telling my father it was $200, and I just repeated whatever I saw on Billy's check that he was showing. Look at my check. I can't wait to go out. Yes, we're going out to have fun. Yes, we're going shopping. Why can't Zach come with? Why can't Zach come with? His father, his father, his father, his father, his father. Well, I asked my father why I'm not allowed to get clothing with the other kids. I asked my father, and he told me, deal with it, pretty much. They don't get any clothing money. You're lying. He called me a liar. He said the other kids aren't going clothing shopping every month. You're just lying. Again, my father calls me a liar whenever he's in trouble. Whenever my father doesn't want to take responsibility for something he's doing. He just calls me a liar. He's now 89, still doing this to doctors. Now, I'm going to be dead soon. I got a landlord trying to bill me for the rest of my life, and I can't even get a lawyer. Why can't I get a lawyer? I have $0. Like right now, I'll give you an example. I have got us 3 different lawyers while having $0. All they need me to do is photocopy stuff at 15 cents a copy and get it to them. I am happy to do it. I went to 2 free photocopiers, 2 of them. 2 free photocopiers out of order. So what can I do now? Can I beg for money on the street? No, I tried that. That got my phone bill paid. I can beg and I can beg and I can beg, but it will be too late. Well, how about my roommate? He gets a Social Security check. I mean, he seems to have money for other stuff. I mean, he's paying the bills, but then again, I paid the back rent for him and me. Oh, yes, I sure did that. How did that end up happening? How did I end up having to go back to work full time while bleeding internally? Why would anybody go back to work full time, bleeding internally, having seizures on the side of the road, falling down in customers? Well, I'll explain it to you. I got injured. I tried to get better, but the doctors won't help me. Why won't the doctors help me? Because my father continues, after 25 years, continues to do this. Well, that can't be the only reason. Well, I also have a roommate that has lost his mind and nobody will help. Well, why won't they help him? Why won't they talk about what his real condition is? I mean, Zach, if you're his caregiver and you're reporting stuff that's wrong with this man's mind, then they're supposed to write it down and help you. Yes, but he doesn't want to tell anybody because he's afraid that something might happen to him. He might have to go into the hospital or something, so he doesn't want to tell anybody. Well, doesn't he go to his doctors? Doesn't he have a primary care? Oh, yeah, he has a primary care in another state that says they need to see him at least once more. They have an average of once a year to once every 2 years. Plus, I don't go down with them, they say. They say, you never came down with him. Oh, Dave comes down here and we don't get much out of him. Oh, so David doesn't talk about his condition with his doctors. Well, how about up here? There was a worker from Elderly Services who, and also wasn't there a worker named Beth and Christine from Rochester, New Hampshire? Didn't you go and try to get cash benefits and Social Security? Yeah, but they wanted my father's number to see the old Social Security case. Oh, you mean the fraudulent one that your mother and father used to drain you and get that 980 that they invested for their house? Oh, yes, that one. Well, whatever happened to that house that your father used that 980 to get? Well, as soon as the Social Security was found out, as soon as my father got into trouble, he sold the house and pocketed all the money he invested into it. Oh, but my father might say, well, I got him food. Even if Zach claims that I didn't get him enough clothing, $200 or $100, what kid needs $100 a month of clothing? Well, how about $20 of clothing every month? That would have been nice. If I could have just gone out with the other kids for those years, for year after year, age 14 all the way on. I'm called the raggedy kid at school. I'm called the raggedy kid. And everybody thinks I'm just wearing this out of choice. No, I'm taking what I have and putting it together. I mean, what am I going to do? Wear my church clothes? I mean, my father made sure I had church clothes. He did that much. Yeah, I always had some church clothes. But you don't wear that to a program, you'll get beat up. Plus, my father isn't letting me keep my good clothes at the programs where I spend 24 days every month. Yes, 24 days out of every month on average I spend in the program, where at least 6 days on average I spend with my father. Well, in those 6 days, how much food do you think I ate? And then my father will go, I paid for those programs. Did he really? They're state-run, free programs that you sign your kid up with. So tell me something. What is my father talking about when he says he paid for a program? He's trying to mislead and confuse people again. He's taking my truth and twisting it all up with his bullshit. He paid for a program in New Mexico, and he sued them and got $24,000 because some big black man gave me food poisoning, choked me out, and used all of us children. All of it. I had to listen to a little girl who took a shower too long. He threatened, if you don't get out of that shower, I'll choke you out right on this floor. I swear to God, you think I won't do it? I'll do it. If I come back here and you're not ready again, you're going to get it. And of course, he came back in, and she was trying to get out of the shower. You heard the water stop. He came in, and then you heard her on the ground gargling water. Well, what the hell? How is she gargling water? I think it was her spit. I don't know what the hell she was gargling, but you could hear a gargling voice. It sure sounded like the water stopped. You didn't hear the... You don't hear the water running. You hear this weird pressure in the pipes because this is a cabin up in New Mexico. It's a cabin way up in the mountains. It wasn't built yet. So there's a place called Villa Santa Maria. Now, if you go online, you can see it built today. But I was there at about, I would say 2000 exactly, 2000. Place wasn't built yet. There was no pool, no facilities, no teachers. There was a teacher for the first 3 months, but she didn't know how to break up all these different age groups. There was kids at age 8, 7, all around there, all the way up to 13. There was even one 6-year-old that came in for a little bit. How is this teacher going to teach all these different grades every day? How is she going to keep us from losing our education? After 3 months, she realized it was impossible. She had to drive like 4 hours up a mountain. So she told all the kids in a room, I'm sorry that, the commute is too much. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. The staff member said it was for money. But most likely, she seemed so loving. This seemed like a teacher that really cared about our education. She couldn't do it. Of course she couldn't. It's impossible. So she dropped out after 3 months. I went without education for about 9 months where we just played outside. They call it free range time. Or they brought us to chop rocks on the side of the highway to get fossils or stuff like that. And then for the last 4 months, I would say, or so, where I was there was a bald guy who kind of looked like my brother who was teaching in the other room where we weren't allowed to go. It was like this office room. It had some computers. We never got to use the computers either. I'm not quite sure what this office room was, but it's where the office staff would be sometimes, and they would bring us in and bring us around the corner. And then there was this little tiny room with like 3 computers that we never were allowed to use. I mean, we never even saw this room for the first year or so that I was there. We never even knew this room existed. We weren't allowed to go on the side white buildings, and they didn't have the other white building built yet. They had a Christmas tree white building where they brought us all in for Christmas to show us off to the parents that we're doing fine. Then they had this other office building that they were using for offices, and in the back of this is kind of like where it was this little kind of room with the little computers. And the classroom was actually in part of the where we first came in for the first 3 months. That was part of the actual what I call the cabin. That was way in the back. You first got this little living room there with a bunch of foosball tables and things, but they kept the balls from us because they said it was too dangerous. It was for the older kids only because we would spin it. No spinning, no spinning. But of course, the young kids had no wrist muscles, and the older kids would just slam it through us. Also, the basketball courts were unusable. You only could play horse. All the growth was all out of control, so you couldn't bounce a ball. So the older kids would play horse, but we couldn't even get the ball to the basket. I was too young. Christina Stiers was too young. The other little girl that was a year younger than Christina Stiers that got choked out in the shower, she was too young. We couldn't even get the basket to the hoop. So how are we supposed to play horse? Well, how about the kickball court and the softball court? Well, when we were first there was this ball that was like the insert to a ball. Now that I think about it, I thought it was the insert to a basketball. But now that I'm older and I really reflect on it, I think it was the black insert to a what do you call those things? Soccer ball. But no matter what it was just the insert with everything removed, just the rubber. And we used that for a while, but it was so unprotected that it didn't work. And nobody brought in a new ball. Nobody would get us a new ball. So a staff member brought in some stuff, a basketball, and then another woman staff member brought in a softball. But that was like once every 3 months or 4 months and only during summer. So there wasn't much we could do other than wander around these woods trying to find rattlesnakes and lizards and tarantulas and centipedes on trees and wild watermelons we found. And me and this little Christina Stiers, we found everything. We even found some like Lincoln logs type stuff, some really rotted out wood, like giant Lincoln logs. We're talking about 10 to 15 foot, and they're really rotted out, really, really water rotted. They're not soaked with water, it's like they've been bleached by the sun, kind of like driftwood would be. And it's just really old. But then we go, staff members, can we build something with this? Can we build? You can't even lift that. I'll get the older kids to help. No, you can't. So we try to go to the older kids and we go, hey, the staff members aren't watching us. We'll do whatever we want. I mean, you guys do whatever you want. They go, yeah. The older kids go, sure, nobody's going to care. So, but they said, no, you guys got to do something. If we're going to lift all these and make you a house and all that, you guys got to dig. So they give me and Christina a shovel and they say they dig a hole. Me and Christina spend a week and a half digging this hole, and we get it all the way up to our necks, and it's all the way up to like the older kids like waist or something like that, or something about that length. It's hard to actually give an exact length when you're this many years out. So we dug this hole, and the older kids helped us build the wall, and we even put in an extension. It was pretty cool. But this is what we did day after day after day. There was no education. Well, after my father sued this place, and I've already had a seizure during winter, and nobody got me medical care. I was left out in the woods, and the cold got to me, and my mother's given me an overdose, and she's cut off all doctors. The teachers and the doctors in Texas, I actually brought up this. So we moved to Texas so my mother could avoid responsibility. She cut off everybody. In Texas, I was getting a normal education. They're trying to catch me up, but I'm really having a lot of difficulty. My mother had me redo first grade. Now, if you look at this is how they fooled everybody still to today. Still today, they wonder if, oh, it must be Zach causing some problems. But listen, if you want context, everything makes sense. But if you read something on my record, like Zach redid first grade, but if you read the context that the teacher wrote, that followed me around to make sure that all the teachers understood what was going on there, the teacher wrote a document to go along with that. Zach redid first grade because his mother demanded it and wanted him to be older than the other kids. The teacher recommended me go to second grade because I was one of the head of the class. I wasn't number one, but I definitely was way above middle, way above the middle. I was doing good in spelling, I was doing good in reading, I was doing good in just about every single area. But my mother wanted me to redo first grade. And this is my brand new. Remember, I came from an orphanage. These are parents that are now 89 and I'm 32. My mother's now dead because she was mixing drugs and alcohol together, and my father tried to hide it. So it says natural causes or some shit. No, you can easily know that because the one day she went home, she drank with liver failure. She had 20% of her liver working. She was yellow. She drank booze. And then the next morning, she's brought back to the emergency room. If my father just told them the truth, then my mother would have had liver failure on there. But they tried to get her a liver transplant, and she used to work at this hospital many years before, many, many years. So they wanted to keep her alcoholism, her pill popping, a secret so she could get a liver transplant. But they must have known that she was heavily drinking. So she died of that, but my father continues to lie about it. It brings me to tears when I have to work so hard to be strong to talk about my mother in this way. I'm just being honest with God and myself. That's it. God knows all. God saw what happened. God saw her drinking. My father saw her drinking, and I saw her drinking as she only had 20% of the liver working. She just spent a month in the hospital. She's coming home for one day to see her family. She blows past her family, runs to the liquor cabinet, and drinks. That's when it occurred to me. My mother thinks her family is the liquor cabinet. That's why she was thinking about liquor for the last 30 days. So she told the doctor, just like any other addict will lie to try to get out of being in the hospital. Oh, I got to say goodbye to Zach. I love my little Zach. I love my 19-year-old son, Zach. I got to come home to say hi to I got to give my son, Zach, a hug. And then as soon as she gets home, I'm right in the doorway to give her a hug. But she blows past me, doesn't even look at me, goes straight for the liquor cabinet and goes straight for drinking. God knows that that's the truth. I know that that's the truth, and my father knows that's the truth. But he will never tell the truth about these things. Not only that, my mother made up stories about mental illnesses. He said I had homicidal tendencies because I brought a match to Slug Slime to see if I could make fire extinguishers. I see this stuff on YouTube everywhere. These geniuses putting together great things. Great things. They're making porous knives that can be used in the future to make jet engines. You got people working on chemistry to make new molecules to cure epilepsy like CBDV. And I don't get to do any of it. I don't get to protect my family. I don't get to go to the doctor. I never get to work a job. I don't get to go to school. I don't get to go even to middle school, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. My education gets dropped completely. And then, when I'm dropped in Massachusetts again and they want to know why I can't read, write, or things are going bad, they call me slow. They call me retarded. They call me disabled. They try to make me out to be a serial killer, suicidal, all this, as my mother drugs me with so many medications that my head is spinning constantly. And the doctors are going along with this. There's a Dr. Rosenblum. Now, when I told him that my mother was making up stories about me and it bothered me, this is somebody who's supposed to be a psychiatrist. You know what he told me? Can't you just let it go? Meanwhile, my mother is telling him that the reason why I must like the ruler to my face, I must like her leaving marks on me, I must like waking up in the morning sick to my stomach, shaking, I must like having people make up stories about me because I have attachment disorder, my mother says. I'm only projecting this because I have a problem with my biological mother. I never knew my biological mother. She was 15 years old, and I think she made the right decision. I don't have any hard feelings against her whatsoever. But the person hitting me with a ruler, the person drugging me, the person making up stories about me, the person keeping my clothing check, the person lying about me, the person doing shit with Social Security they're not supposed to, and then I bail them out and they don't even thank me for it. Yeah, I got a little problem with that. But you know what the psychiatrist says? No, it's just his biological mother. Oh, I see, it's attachment disorder. I'm writing a book, you know. That's perfect. So Zachary has attachment disorder, and he takes it out on on his adopted mother. On his adopted mother, yes. He says that his adopted mother is hitting him. He says his adopted mother is slipping him pills, or there's something wrong, or giving him medication, too much of it, or he's doing this. But it's all fantasies, my mother says. It's all made up. Even though my nephew is talking about it, he's scared of her. He comes up to my father and goes, I'm scared for Zach. I don't like what she's doing. Can you tell her to stop all this awful stuff? My brother is constantly pulling me to the side saying, you should keep an eye on this. What she's doing to you is wrong, you poor, poor boy. Teachers are pulling me to a side. In Westford, before we move into Texas, in Texas itself, after they try to bury it with New Mexico and Maine and come back to Mass, teachers in Worcester are getting notes that they think are crazy, and they say, you poor boy with a mother like that. I go, what do you mean? Well, that note that your mother wrote back was crazy. We told your mother that you did great, that you did awesome. You helped other students. We sent that in a letter. And by the way, you're the only 15-year-old boy or 14-year-old boy in the bridge program in Worcester. You're the only kid having a mother send notes like a fucking kindergartner. No, we told her this was unnecessary, and she got her lawyers involved. She said she was going to sue us. She said she was going to go after us. She started saying she was going to take you out of the school and stuff. So we agreed. Then we write a good note home, and you get berated. They start tearing you to pieces because of a good note that you did a good job. And then we call home telling her to stop this behavior, and she starts screaming at us. And then you come back on the third day, and all we can say is, "You poor, poor boy," the teacher said. The teacher's aide and the teacher look straight at me and says, "You poor, poor boy. We called home to your mother. We tried your best, but we don't know what to do about your mother." And so this continues, this big snowball continues rolling downhill. So now I'm age 19, 20. I've just bailed my father out. He's fucked up my Social Security. He doesn't get to try to buy his way into a house anymore. His wife is dying. She's killing herself with drugs and alcohol. And I come home because he fucked up on Social Security. So I'm going to get thrown out of my housing. I backed him. I'm nice to him, and they're holding my health hostage. They're lying to doctors, and they're holding my physical health hostage. They're ripping parts of my body out. They're saying, "You don't need to ever walk again. You don't need your arms again. You don't ever, epilepsy, fuck that. They don't need to know about your epilepsy. You're bumping in the furniture all the time. They don't need to know that. Let's just call it suicidal behaviors. Let's just call it homicidal behaviors. Let's just call it depression. Let's just call it suicidal ideations. Let's just call it attachment disorder. Let's take your swimming medals away and call that attachment. It's fantasies. It's all some made up story. It's all, some immaturity shit." My voice has changed forever, too. No matter if I turn 40, I'm still going to have some voice like this, by the way. I'm 32, and my voice is just getting more and more girly, more and more childish, and that's going to continue happening. I can talk and tell you a phrase like, "Oh my God, that guy over there is killing that man. Somebody please stop him." And that still sounds childish, doesn't it? "Let's go to war. Fight that guy. Yeah, I'm gonna go to battle. Yes, and I'm gonna fight for my country. I'm gonna fight for the people at home." That still sounds childish, doesn't it? But if somebody with a deep voice said those exact words, it would sound more adult, wouldn't it? It's all the voice. As I get older, my voice is getting worse and worse to a neurological disorder, epilepsy, head injuries. Yes, I've had several head injuries all the way back to Texas, New Mexico, and Westford. This really bad situation, and still to this day, my father wants to kill me. But it's not just him. I got a goddamn roommate who doesn't give a fuck about getting himself help. So, I also had a Raymond Christian III who was completely gone, but everybody knows that. I have a town called Rochester, New Hampshire, Christine Garber, the Department of Health and Human Services, code enforcement, that decided before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID that I should just die on the side of the road keeping their gas flowing because I'm an essential service worker. Fuck your injuries on the side of the road. Fuck your flu. Fuck your head injury. Fuck your seizures. Fuck your epilepsy. Keep the money flowing. He doesn't need any help. Then Christine Garber decides to cut off everything because they talked to my father. Yes, my father says it's an immaturity level issue. It's all these other things. He's 89 years old. His wife is just his new side piece. My mother's dead. She's been dead since 2011. But they're acting like this woman, Alice, knows everything about me. Somehow she knows about this. She doesn't. She came in afterwards. She's my father's new wife. That's it. So she's going to back him no matter what he says. Hopefully she'll find Jesus, and so will he one day. That's also something about me. I'm super religious. I believe in the 10 Commandments. So I'm not willing to lie, manipulate, or do any of those things. But instead, everybody calls me a liar and a manipulator. So when I try to bring the truth about my roommate or about the landlord, or I try to provide pictures, videos, or context, somebody gives a one-word statement and they take it as gospel. The landlord, like I'll give you an example. The landlord is having waterfalls come in for 6 years. When we rented this apartment, we saw water coming in when the windows were closed. We brought this to the landlord many times. He says, I'm going to give you new windows. 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 COVID hit. I'm going to give you new windows. So then I brought it to the courts. Waterfalls coming in on video. What does the landlord say about that? No, they're leaving the windows open to get those videos. Oh, we'll take that as gospel. You can clearly see in the video that the outside storm windows are closed. The inside windows are closed. So what is he talking about? What part is open? The outside is closed, the inside is closed, but the landlord makes one-word statements. My father makes one-word statements, or my roommate uses senile trick questions and answers them. Like, I'll give you another trick question. Code enforcement, well, first the landlord made sure to give them this trick question. And this is what they said to my roommate, and my roommate answered it falsely. They asked him, so it seems like, or looks like, that you guys and the landlord is at fault here. So you both damaged the apartment. Both you and the landlord damaged the apartment. And they try to say this in a quick way. Now, if my roommate says no, then he's claiming that the landlord is not responsible for damages. But if he answers yes, then he's incriminating himself, saying he damaged it. So what's the answer? The landlord is responsible, is your answer. You don't answer yes, you don't answer no. You say the landlord is responsible. You figure out the trick question and you just answer it. But see, my roommate doesn't know how to answer it, no or yes. So he just says yes. Yeah, the landlord did it. But he doesn't say the landlord part. He just says yes. He is having trouble speaking. He can't dial the phone. He's not making appointments. And right now, we need to get photocopies to legal aid attorney. This is the third attorney I'm going to lose. Why? I have $0 for photocopies. I need $15 right now. It is 15 cents a copy. I need to make, there's 100 pages and I need to copy all of them and I need to send it to an address I have so my roommate, age 84, and me have an attorney. Well, what's the problem? Well, my roommate's the only one with money. It's up to him to get these photocopies on time. I can go bring them to the free places, and I have no bus fare to do it. I'm literally begging people for $3 to go looking for free fucking copy machines just to find out they're out of order or there's too many pages, so they're not going to let me use it. Meanwhile, my roommate goes around town trying to get packs of cigarettes instead of money for photocopies. You can see how this might be a problem. I'm trying my best to keep things together. I'm working myself to death while injured. I literally am carrying 60 pounds of paperwork with me, with a hernia, with my kidneys putting out black urine, while having a neurological disorder, while falling on the side of the road, while bleeding, while having stomach damage, while having esophagus damage. Meanwhile, my mental health gets affected by people coming up with stories. Like, for instance, the maintenance was downstairs. I didn't know this. Me and my roommate are upstairs. I don't feel so good and I can't stand up. I'm stuck on the floor for over a month and I can't stand up. When I go to the bathroom, I have to crawl on the floor. When I go to cook food, I have to cook it on the floor, but it's just a waffle maker. That's all I could use on the floor. I'm very fire safe. I'm always putting out fires on Raymond Christian III or other senile people. So I always try to make sure to be safe when cooking at all, especially on the floor. So I have a bucket of cat litter there. I'm on a nice safe surface, a piece of glass over a piece of special wood, stuff like that. I'm cooking on the floor, and another day goes by and another day. Now I'm on the floor in the morning, in the afternoon, and I'm hurting in the afternoon. I decide to mix my benzo cream, that's a pure benzocaine that gets added to a aloe vera with alcohol. It just dissolves in that. Then you measure out to make it less than 5%. Once when it's at about 5, then I add that to another aloe vera cream, and then that gets added to a men's care cream that gets kind of liquidy at that point. Then it goes into a jar labeled lidocaine cream or benzocaine cream, just a glass jar, and I use this on my back, and it's usually at about 2.5%, that or less. Sometimes it's as low as 1 because I really don't want to take any chances. So I'm on the floor, and I asked my roommate, I said, I got to get naked. I'm going to do my upper thighs, my lower back, and my belly. And it's really hard for me to move around. So I'm going to be naked. Can I get some privacy? He says yes. So I'm in my long underwear. He closes the door and he leaves. Then I take my long underwear down. I put the cream on. After I put the cream on, I take everything, I measure it out, put it in the jar that says lidocaine or benzocaine. I got two different jars. I'm putting the cap back on everything. I pull my I pull my long underwear up, then I'm putting the jars away. But all of a sudden, as I'm putting my jars away and everything, I got like my little scooper. It's a nice little cuts. Like I think I was using no, I have a metal scooper. I wasn't using the straw. I used to use straws back in Lowell to measure stuff, like when I was cream or anything like this. But I'm using a little scooper that goes to a metal pipe cleaner, I guess. But it's perfect. It has a little scooper, and I'm just putting everything away. I put the scooper away. I put everything away. But I'm hearing laughing in back of me. And it's just a metal piece I'm putting away. I'm putting the cap on a jar, and I'm pouring a white liquid into a white glass bottle. There's no measuring being done of the benzocaine, so it's just being put away. Anyways, I got my long underwear up, and I hear somebody laughing at me on the floor. Who could be laughing at me in my house? So I turn around, and my roommate has a grin smile, and it's my maintenance. My maintenance came into my house. Now, he was supposed to be there 3 days prior. He refused to show up. I asked him to come the next day. He refused to show up and said he's not coming. On the third day, while my roommate was downstairs knowing I'm naked, he lets the maintenance in my house to watch me while I'm not looking, seeing me with my cream, putting it on my body. I get pissed. I say, I have every right to put my fucking cream on my body. You get the fuck out of my house. You had no permission to be here. You didn't call. Get the fuck out of my house. If you don't go right now, I swear to God, I will fucking lose it. Get the fuck out of my house. He says, all right then. And then he leaves. I call him afterwards and explain the situation like a fucking man. I find out later that he feels bad about this situation. He thinks that I'm going to blame him. No, I blame my senile roommate because he knew what was going on. The maintenance didn't know what was going on. He should have called me. He should have fucking kept his schedule. And he continues to play motherfucking games with us, trying to hurt our mental health. They're throwing us on the ground, beating us. They're trying to bring Jeremy Munger, who's not allowed, into court to make threats to us. And then, in the same courtroom, they try to claim that I'm doing some cocaine. I'm doing cocaine. Why? Because I said I have every right to put benzo cream on my back. I can put all the benzocaine on my back as I want. Get the fuck out of my house. So he heard the word cane, and because they're drug addicts, they're really bad drug addicts. They smoke meth around here. I've seen the maintenance meth out really bad. They drive those big motorcycles wearing those feathery, like Indian hats. They have that racist flag, like the racist Southern flag for the South. If I talk about black people, they say, those niggers, and stuff like that. So, these people are fucking meth heads. They are. So when I say I'm putting some type of cream on my back that they don't understand, they don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. They don't know anything about medicine. They don't know anything about disabilities. So they see me on the floor putting cream on my back, and I'm saying, get the fuck out of my house. I have every right to put benzo cream on my body, in my house. Get the fuck out of my house. They hear benzocaine cream, and they think, cocaine, cocaine. We know we love cocaine. And that's what these fucking maintenance, that's all they know. That's all these redneck hicks know. They know drugs, meth, and alcohol. They buy 48 packs, and then the next day they're going to get more. I see this all the time. So of course, they now are, I'm in courtroom, and this guy is coming up with so much of bullshit thinking I'm going to throw him under the bus. For one, I don't. I mean, I don't want to explain that I was naked on the floor and David let somebody into my house because he's senile. I don't want to do that. But I got my father killing me. I got my roommate killing me. I got a landlord killing me. And I have systematic issues from state to state killing me. The state of Massachusetts, the state of New Hampshire, the town of Rochester, New Hampshire. And honestly, it's affected me to the point where I just don't even know if I have the will to live after 25 years of this. When I stand up this minute, when I get up to get a glass of water, I am going to moan in pain, and I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life. And I got pieces of my body that other people have taken from me with their choices. And I can get better with just a piece of paper and some epilepsy medication and be treated like a fucking human being. My father and my family and the doctors could work with me and we could have me better in no time. But all this fucking bullshit is in the way. It needs to be cleared out. As long as people are calling my truth and the things that happen to me a fantasy, or don't listen to him, or it's all a story, or just, oh, we don't want to hear your stories. If people say that shit, it means I have to die. It means that I am going to die and I'm never going to get better. So every time I hear something like that, it almost makes me cry and want to blow my own brains out because I know I'm going to have to fight for another 10 years for my life. I'm going to go through suffering when it doesn't have to be. I don't have to suffer. It's only other people making it that way. Everybody else in the United States is allowed to walk into a hospital after a seizure, or actually not walk in, when they find them unconscious on the side of the road and they go into a hospital and they say they have epilepsy or something, they get treated. When somebody has an infection in their leg from a fracture and they go into the hospital, they get treated with a cast or whatever, antibiotics. When somebody bleeds internally and they go to a primary care, they don't hear, oh, this is real? I don't know why they gave this case to me. I thought that this was a psych case, they told me. No, this is real. I can see the blood. You need a urologist and a GI specialist. Why am I hearing this from my doctors? Why am I continuously given? And by the way, that was a emergency primary care for the bleeding into my testicles. It wasn't even my regular primary care, and it took them 6 months for anybody from a specialist to look at it. By then, the blood was dried up, gone kinda, and of course my GI was the only thing hurting still, 2 inches from the belly button where it was still dripping. Well, the feeling's still there, but the dripping feeling wasn't there. Where it was dripping, I can still feel pain. I think that's better than, still today, 2 years later, I haven't got shit for treatment. Just CT scan, CT scan, CT scan, CT scan. Crawl across the road when you can't walk because they won't issue a wheelchair. Oh, and my father made sure to cut off my emergency bracelet so I wouldn't be able to get an ambulance anymore. I'm not kidding. They say, oh, we don't do that anymore, but they mean we don't do that anymore for you because your father reported that you don't have epilepsy, you don't have seizures, and that you could just call us anytime you want. But the truth is, I get stuck on the side of the road for days or until I can get home or get any place. And I can't use phones after a seizure. I'll be lucky if I can get up and get my legs to work to get me home or get me to an emergency room. And then when I go into the emergency room, they just tell me to leave. They don't believe me. They don't listen to me. Why would they do that? Well, I also lived in the woods trying to survive in Massachusetts for 4 years. Why? Because when I go to the shelter and I can't move my legs in the morning, or if I have difficulty, they just discriminate against me. They say, nope, can't get help. 25 years of trafficking and bullshit and old man stories. And all I want to do is follow Jesus. I literally was a teacher's aide for 4 years until they told me I couldn't go back because of my nighttime meds were all fucked up. And the doctor doubled them when I asked them to please solve this so I could keep my job. I literally work with the hardest elderly people on the planet. Anybody who spends even a week living with these people would know what I know. But instead, these doctors and these people don't listen. Don't listen. There's a Raymond Christian that I'm sure they saw how he is now. I'm sure they twisted their way because he left. I got rid of him and I left him on Rochester, and they probably all mad at me going, well, why did he bring him up there? I didn't. Mark Harrington brought these people up here and put these people on Robert DeLeo, my landlord, and I had nothing to do with that. But they blame me once again. Just keep on victim blaming. Pile it on, guys. Just kill me. Make me so mental that I blow my own brains out, right? Just try to kill me, right? Have me freeze to death out in the woods and have seizures, right? Just finish me off. That's the plan, right? Don't let me get the same medical care that the rest of the United States or New Hampshire gets. Just make sure I have no rights. I'm a psycho, right? I don't get to defend my family. I don't get to protect myself. If somebody tries to beat on me, I'm not even allowed to punch back because all those people say is, no, Zach attacked me. And all of a sudden, I'm in handcuffs and they're the hero. Meanwhile, if they beat on me and I don't even throw a punch back and this camera's going on, they still motherfucking don't do shit. So, yeah, I'm fucking pissed off. I even got old man's cracking knuckles about to break his own fingers, and then he's going to complain that he can't clean or mop. Then stop cracking your fucking knuckles, right? So stupid shit is constantly happening. I mean, we've had no bedrooms for fucking 3 years, and I have to sleep next to a colostomy bag for 3 years. Well, Zach, why don't you go report the bed bugs and get a sample? I've got 3 samples for the landlords. I've gone to code enforcement, welfare, and the courts. Well, what's the problem? The landlord says there's no bugs, and my roommate said there's no bugs, and both of those reports haven't changed. Those reports still are on paper, and nobody's changed them. Why? If there's so many bugs there, then they must know about it. Didn't the bug company come in? Yes. I paid hundreds of dollars to get a bug company to come in and spray. So did my roommate, by the way. He cut the cost with me. We gave the money to the landlord, the sprayer came in. They came right back within 9 months. Upstairs needed to get sprayed. Well, what's the problem? The landlord says we brought the bugs in. And then he got Mark Harrington to write a witness statement saying that David brought all this stuff in. Even though the landlord told David he could keep the couch. I got rid of it anyways, and it was a big fight. Mark Harrington told David he could go get mattresses from him. I wouldn't allow it. So they tried to pull that shit. But I bought everything brand new on Amazon for over $1,200 because I gave my father my tax return for surgery, and I gave the landlord and David my tax return so they would have a place to sleep and to fix the bug situation. Still, I live in the living room with a goddamn colostomy bag and cracking fingers next to my fucking bed. I'm trying to do my therapy here, and I gotta hear crackety crack, crack, crack. I gotta smell things I don't want to smell. He needs to move to his bedroom, and I need to have my own room. It's that fucking simple. I paid good money for this apartment. I injured myself for this apartment. This is not some subsidized shit. This is full price. I got waterfalls damaging my property. I've had to replace my mattresses several times. I've invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this place. I actually pay double for my roommate. For every 500 in rent my roommate pays, I pay 500 in rent, and a constant stream of me paying for cleaning, me paying for feeding, me paying for wall cleaning, me paying for cabinet cleaning, me paying and scraping mold under sinks constantly. Well, how about maintenance? Why didn't they scrape the mold under the sink? I called them in. They took one look at it and said, that will get us sick. We're not touching that. Then I called the authorities. We don't do anything about mold. Then I showed them pictures. We don't want to look at the pictures. Waterfalls coming in all the time. People getting sick way before us at 314 Rochester Hill Road, Rochester, New Hampshire, apartment 3J. Anybody who moves in there is going to have illnesses for the rest of their life. And if you don't believe me, just look at my channel after I'm dead. Yes, you can go to my channel, or you can just go into some of my pictures on my phone, or you could just go to the pictures that were printed out, and it's very clear that this apartment would kill anybody, even if they didn't have the fucked up shit that I'm dealing with their past. But I now have to die, physically get killed by an 89-year-old, an 84-year-old, a greedy landlord, a fucked up nutty mother, and a fucked up system in Massachusetts and a state in New Hampshire that doesn't want to do their fucking jobs. So I get to die at the age of 32. I'll be lucky if I make it to 33, but either way, I won't make it to 35. Never. Never like this. I mean, I could if I was just allowed to be a person, a human being, instead of something like a gerbil. I mean, my legal rights are at a gerbil level. I would like them to be at least a dog level. I mean, if you kick a dog and his kidney fails and the dog dies, you would figure that that person would go to jail. If you kick a human who just got out of the hospital with black urine, kidney failure, GI, and then you bend down to punch his GI, and this gets caught on a Ring camera, and then the police are called and a report, you would think something would be done about it, except for let's evict him 3 days later and we'll worry about this all the way in December when he's freezing to death. We know he has a neurological disorder, so he'll be gone by then. He can't survive outside for that long. That's their plan. Kill me off. I'm going to lose my mind. I don't think my mental health can take much more storytelling, much more mistakes by my roommate, much more people coming by using trick questions, trying to have him go, hey, we want to take pictures of the living room because you guys have 2 mattresses, 2 bureaus, and a bunch of clothing and a TV all stacked into the living room. So we're going to take one picture of that. We're code enforcement, and that's all we're going to use for evidence because the landlord says you guys are bringing everything in. So that's our proof. Meanwhile, they need permission to do that. So they go straight to David sitting in a chair, go, can we take a picture of the living room? Yeah, okay, see you later, bye. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get them to take a picture of the waterfall window, the rot, the ceiling tiles that are brand new, already about to collapse again. So see the pictures of before, things like that. But they have no interest in doing any of those things. It's trick questions, living room bullshit, and my roommate's falling for all of that because he needs medical help. But Christine has made it clear that they want to make him seem like he's all there, and I'm the problem. Meanwhile, he can't even wipe his own ass properly. Now, that's kind of a joke because he has a colostomy bag, get it? He can't wipe his own ass. He doesn't poop out of his ass. So, but the point is, he literally can't understand what's going on at any given time. He's constantly getting taken advantage of, and this is a big problem because they use him to hurt me, what is massively illegal. Taking advantage of one man's disabilities to attack and hurt another man and it may cause more disabilities in him. That is so illegal, it's not even fucking funny. But then I try to get a lawyer, but I have $0, so I can't get the photocopies, and my roommate can't handle his money because he's senile. So what are we supposed to do here? He can't handle his money, and I have no money, and they're taking advantage of us, and my father wants me killed. I guess he's going to get his wish. I guess between the landlord, my father, my mother, and David, I'm dead. And none of it, what's even funnier is in my early 20s, I had drug abuse where I drank a lot because I was freezing in the woods, and certain things like alcohol, epilepsy medication, Ativan seemed to help. But none of that seemed to really do any damage. Most of the falling and having epilepsy falls and that stuff hurt a little bit, but it really wasn't that. I haven't had any problems from the hepatitis yet. I went to the doctors. My liver is fine, but the kidneys getting kicked in them is not. But my liver count is fine, and they said the hepatitis, they don't even have to treat me. I've been trying to get hepatitis treatment for 6 years. They tell me my hepatitis is fine, there's no reason to treat it. I get blood work done every 6 months to a year, and they still tell me they can't even find the right type of hepatitis because the levels are so low. So they can't treat because they need a specific treatment, and until they can identify that the high levels of the specific type of hep C, they don't need a treatment. So it's some big game to them. Apparently there's a generic out there, but they won't pay for it. I'm going to lose my mind with these people. I swear to God, I mean, they're driving me insane. Nobody else gets crippled and made crippled and get worse. I didn't look like this 3 years ago. Every 4 years, I look more and more injured and funny. My voice is more funny. My walk is more funny. My back is more funny. And then people just say, see, he's mentally ill. Look how he walks. Look how he talks. But when I was 20, I sounded like a fucking genius indoors. When I was 16, I was all drugged up, so I seemed all weird. At age 12, I was literally in Maine, had no education, knew nothing. And New Mexico, I was wandering in the woods with a little girl called Christina Stiers, my girlfriend, looking for tarantulas and bugs. Before that, I was in Texas learning a new type of school. Before that, I was getting drugged the shit out of in Massachusetts. Before that, I was in an orphanage called St. Anne's. Before that, I don't remember, but I had a 15-year-old mother and I got taken away because she was too young. That's it. She stayed sober during the pregnancy. She gave birth. And then she was out for 2 days and left me with a babysitter and they took me away. Something like that. And I have no hard feelings about that. But my mother, my adopted mother, smacking me around, drugging me, and destroying my body, and then lying about it, and then making sure I could never get medical care still today. And then I go today trying to get help, and I still can't because of these fucking assholes around me. You got fucking asshole. By the way, the landlord lives right next to my father, too, by the way, what fucking makes it even worse. I can just see my father going to the landlord to find the truth. Like, that would fucking work. Or going to David to find the truth. Like, that would fucking work. When his son has the context he needs, I'm the one who was there. I was there. Your wife admitted to drugging me right in front of your daughter, Valerie, and me. She said, yeah, I gave him extra medication